Donald Trump bashes Iran, Syria and North Korea in his first speech at the UN General Assembly, but his overall tone sounds remarkably similar to the speeches of his predecessors.
In America, we do not seek to impose our way of life on anyone.
I do not think that America can or should impose our system of government on other countries.
Spanish police arrest Catalonia's junior economy minister as the authorities turn up the heat over the region's upcoming illegal independence referendum.
I am the mother of the late Desiree Robinson, and I'm asking you, the U.S. Senate, to change Section 230.
And the U.S. Senate holds a hearing on a bill to root out online sex trafficking. But some technology companies are opposed, arguing they shouldn't be liable for users' content. You're watching RT International live from our Moscow studio with me, Nadira Tudor. Welcome to the programme. Donald Trump has delivered his first address to the UN General Assembly. However, much of his rhetoric seems remarkably reminiscent of what his predecessors used to say. Our New York correspondent Caleb Morpin looks at some of the new president's rather old remarks.
Trump opened up his debut in the Green Marble Hall of the United Nations with some of his signature rhetoric, which many people argue got him elected.
As President of the United States, I will always put America first.
But from putting national interests first, the speech quickly moved to a globalist agenda with a list of condemnations of other governments.
Rogue regimes represented in this body not only support terrorists, but threaten other nations and their own people with the most destructive weapons known to humanity.
Trump lashed out at the Syrian government, reiterating claims that Damascus has used chemical weapons.
The actions of the criminal regime of Bashar al-Assad, including the use of chemical weapons against his own citizens, even innocent children, shock the conscience of every decent person.
Trump threatened to destroy North Korea, prompting a walkout from the country's ambassador.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
And then Trump lashed out at Iran, branding the country a rogue state.
It is time for the entire world to join us in demanding that Iran's government end its pursuit of death and destruction.
Donald Trump's speech ended up being a sort of call for countries around the world to confront those who, quote, threaten us with chaos, turmoil, and terror, namely three countries, Iran, Syria, and North Korea, two of which were named as the axis of evil by previous U.S. President George W. Bush.
But we know their true nature. North Korea is a regime arming with missiles and weapons of mass destruction while starving its citizens. Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom.
So much for Trump's election promises, offering a new approach to world politics, focusing on America's national interests and not being the policeman of the world. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
And George W. Bush is not the only president whose rhetoric was similar to Trump's. At times, the new president even sounded like his party opponent and predecessor, Barack Obama.
In America, we do not seek to impose our way of life on anyone.
I do not think that America can or should impose our system of government on other countries. In remote corners of the world, citizens are demanding respect for the dignity of all people.
A future of dignity and peace for the people of this wonderful earth. We will fight together.
We must work together.
Sacrifice together.
I believe we must do better together.
And stand together for peace.
All of us can be co-workers with God.
The Almighty God who made us all.
As our correspondent mentioned earlier, Trump lashed out at North Korea, Syria and Iran in his address. Tehran's foreign minister has already reacted, branding Trump's remarks shameless and ignorant. Despite Iran's compliance with the nuclear non-proliferation deal signed in 2015, Washington has been escalating tensions with the country. The Trump administration views the deal as unfair and in July announced new sanctions against Tehran. Just a week later, Congress passed a bill to impose fresh sanctions against the country. Washington's ally, President Macron of France, has nonetheless defended the deal from the same podium where Trump lashed out at Iran.
I would like to defend the nuclear agreement with Iran. Our engagement on non-proliferation allowed us to work out, on the 14th of July 2015, a solid, robust and verifiable agreement that enables us to ensure that Iran does not obtain nuclear weapons. Renouncing it would be a great error. This could apply to North Korea too, immediately. Dialogue, control and multilateralism, these are the efficient weapons. This is the only way forward.
However, US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Washington needs its European allies to make the case to Iran that the deal has to be, quote, revisited. This is how Iranians have reacted to Trump's latest harsh remarks about their country.
The UN says Iran is complying with the agreement. All European countries and Russia say the same. The only country that claims otherwise is the US.
Our people need to stand together. Giving in to America would achieve nothing. It would make matters worse than they are now.
We are not afraid, and we have never been since the beginning.
We have been under sanctions for 4 decades, and the people of Iran are certainly not afraid now. In fact, sanctions have made Iran more independent in many fields.
We discussed the potential consequences of Washington's pressure on Iran with former CIA officer Jack Rice, as well as Tehran-based political analyst Saeed Mustafa Khoshezm.
Unfortunately, we have to realize that it's the P5+1. Everybody agreed, not just the Brits and the French, the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans. If we pull out of this, it's the entire world who will be looking at the United States. I agree that there are limitations and problems. In fact, you could expand upon this, and it needs to be. But to walk away from this deal in itself would be a huge error at this point.
Iran has many components of power, including its nuclear industry, missile power, and regional presence and military clout and influence in the region. What they mean in Washington is to wear off these components of power. Once they do so, Iran would be a very easy target like Iraq at the time of Saddam Hussein. And that would mean a material and fundamental violation of the nuclear deal. And Iranian officials, including the Iranian Supreme Leader, they have all warned that Iran would give them a very tough response.
In another development, the top diplomats of Russia and the US also met in New York to discuss global conflicts and ongoing disputes between the two countries. Following the meeting, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov commented on the state of bilateral relations and who he thinks prompted the tit-for-tat actions.
We waited very long with our tit. In response to Obama's tit. The relations are at a very difficult and very low point, which is the legacy of the Obama administration. And being serious people and responsible people, and I feel Rex Tillerson is one of them, I hope that we can draw conclusions from where we are now and understand where we want to be.